Alrighty. Thanks for coming. Yeah. This is the marketplace BoF. If that's why you're here, great. So we're going to do a quick round of introductions so you know everybody that's here on the stage with us. Gabor, you want to start, and then we'll go from left to right.
Hi, everybody. I'm Gabor Hojci. I'm the contribution coordinator for Drupal CMS, and we'll try to take notes here for us.
I'm Cristina Chumillas, and I'm the product design lead for Drupal CMS.
I'm Tim Plunkett, and I'm the technical lead of Drupal CMS.
I'm Emma Horrell. I'm the UX research lead for Drupal CMS.
Hi, I'm Lenny Moskalik, and I am delivery manager with Drupal Association and part of the leadership team for Drupal CMS.
I am Pamela Barone. I am the product owner for Drupal CMS.
And we have Tiffany. Now first, quick round of applause. Well, I'm going to introduce Tiffany in a second. Sorry, that didn't come over well. But I have more to say about Tiffany. Sorry. I'll do it first. So basically, marketplace. So the product team, the Drupal CMS product team, we have been brainstorming like, hey, what's kind of the next big thing that we can do? And so we arrived at site templates and marketplace. And separately, Tiffany Ferris, she is the chair of the innovation working group at the Drupal Association. So it's one of our working groups, and it combines a number of board members as well as staff of the Drupal Association. And separately, we have been doing exercises as well, and completely independent. Like, they didn't know about this. They also arrived at the marketplace idea being the #1 idea to explore further. So we have a stack ranking of ideas in the innovation working group. And Tiffany has been moderating that wonderfully. Is that the right word? Moderating? Facilitating. I was looking for that word. And so we basically then immediately, I think about 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I forgot exactly how long ago, we decided to combine forces. And as I mentioned in the keynote, really briefly, we have been doing multiple sessions for like 90 minutes, where we've actually done a lot of work, all facilitated by Tiffany. And so what we recently decided is to officially establish a marketplace working group to figure out some of these questions that we have. And it includes all of these people here, and it will be headed up by Tiffany. So that's why I wanted to spend a little bit more time on Tiffany. I apologize for not doing that properly. So with that, maybe I'll give the mic to you.
Thanks, Dries. So for today, I'll be your facilitator. And what we're going to do is I invite you to use that QR code to pop any questions you have into the Drupal Slack. So one of the things I like to do when I'm facilitating is make sure we answer the highest priority questions, because there are going to be far more questions than we'll get to today. But if you post your questions in the Slack, it also helps guide us in the kinds of questions that we ask, even if we can't get to it in this conversation, right? So use a QR code, pop your questions in the Slack, or if you just want to upvote them with a thumbs up, that would be great. So while you're adding your questions, I wanted to do a little bit of a what we like to call a check-in. So I'd like, with show of hands, who here is feeling excited about Drupal CMS? All right, that was most of you, just so you know. All right, just for the recording and posterity, everybody's pretty excited. All right, who is here because they're feeling curious about things? Yeah, there's a lot of curiosity in the room. Anybody have questions about stuff? No, a few questions, actually. Okay, good. All right. I'm also curious, who here isn't yet sure how to get involved? Yeah, there's maybe 10%, so that's good. The other thing I was thinking about is I would love a couple volunteers from the audience while people are posting their questions to share your thoughts. So I am looking first for a site builder. Who's a site builder? Willing to talk to me for 2 minutes. All right, so as a site builder, my question for you is, what do you think about templates? How might they change what you deliver?
Well, I mean, using the concept of the new recipes and having all that stuff come together, it's very exciting to say I can take years of experience of building sites, learning things the hard way, and pass that off. And if it's a site template now, it ups the ante to I'm not just putting it out there to other site builders. There's new people that can come in and they can take my site template, just like on some of these other templating places, and they can spin that up and they can experience the goodness that is Drupal without having to pay that huge learning curve that I've already paid.
Awesome. Why don't you share your name too?
I'm Perry Brown. I'm Perry the Platypus. If you haven't met me by now, I'll be here all week. So.
Awesome. Thanks so much. All right. All right. I am looking for a themer or front end dev. Herschel. 2 minutes. You have just 2 minutes.
So I would like to start.
All right. What are your thoughts? Here, I have to ask. What are your thoughts or questions around Experience Builder and how it's going to change things for you?
Yeah, a lot of what I've been working on and what I'm concerned about is making components that are compatible with both inside and outside of an Experience Builder, which right now is kind of a little bit of a moving target. And I'm also kind of concerned about how Experience Builder is going to handle layout and organize layout stuff. But I've been kind of talking with the team.
Thanks. All right, I have one more question. I'm looking for someone who is either a community contributor or an agency. No volunteers? Crickets? All right, here we go. Say your name.
Hi, I'm Matt Glauman.
All right, Matt. So what are your thoughts about commercialization?
I love it. One. Well, not commercialization, but the site templates. I feel like there is a market and a desire to have a way to buy something. And as a community contributor who does a lot of free work, it's really interesting to find a way to monetize that possibly, which would encourage people to contribute to other parts of it to make their template more, appealing.
Awesome. Thanks so much. All right, Gabor, do we have questions?
We do have a lot, yes.
We have a lot of questions. Oh, okay. This is exciting. All right, let's go ahead and get right into the questions, and I'll give the mic back over here.
All right, thank you.
So we have one that's been upvoted 6 times already from Ryan's Rama. What, if anything, might a premium marketplace controlled by the DA do to assist in the distribution of non-GPL components of a site template to paying customers? So how do we facilitate the distribution of non-GPL components? For example, if a recipe installs a theme and contains non-GPL assets, is it up to the creator to find a way to host and control access to those?
I can try and answer it. So maybe it's good to take a quick step back. So when we think about a site template, again, we're bundling recipes. Recipes have modules and content, but we're also adding a theme, which will be an Experience Builder-based theme, and then some relevant demo content. And as I mentioned in the Driesnote, the modules, they're always going to be open source, all right? They're always going to be under the GPL, but the other things in a site template are potentially things we can license differently. So let's think about a theme. It may have, JPEGs or GIFs or whatever. Like these are things that we could potentially license with a different license, and that's how we might want to be able, or how we might be able to have commercial themes. So people would actually buy something that is non-GPL. That's one way that it could work. There might be other ways, and we have to figure out if this all passes legal questions, etc., etc. But in that sense, I guess the D.O could be offering assets, images, default content that is not under the GPL, and it would be distributed from Drupal.org, let's say. I don't know if that answers the question. Where's Ryan? Oh, there's Ryan. Does that answer the question?
So what Ryan said was that the follow-up was, is he going to have to run his own packages to be able to run updates and other things? And I think, our starting position is no, we're assuming that this would all be self-contained on Drupal.org, but I think that remains to be seen. There's certainly questions that we'll dive into on the logistics of it. Right now, for this evaluation phase, we're looking at whether we even should, right? So I'm actually super excited that you're already on to the implementation question, which bypasses the should we question, right? That's exciting to me.
All of the questions are beyond should we. I mean, that's just...
Woohoo!
We're over that.
We may not have a lot of answers then.
So
no, but I think it's good to get the questions. Just to be clear, that's part of the reason that we wanted to capture it today, was because these are the kinds of questions that we want to think about. So if everyone's just past the question of, should we actually do this, that tells us something.
That's good. So the next question, I think that ties into this, is if we create a commercial marketplace for site templates, can we facilitate purchasing support in addition to purchasing a template? Which is like setting up a relationship with the provider.
Yes.
Well,
That's actually exactly what I was going to say. Yes.
yeah. Basically, if you think about the target person that we're targeting, how are you going to explain this person? No, you're going to another place. You're going to pay in there, and then maybe you come back. It's like it's user experience. Like wherever you buy, you want to pay in there. You don't want to be taken to several places.
Yeah, I would also say, though, I don't think that we should require that. Like, I don't think that if you want to provide site templates that you should have to provide support. I think that's just part of how you price your offering. You can make it $100 and I never want to hear from you again, or you can make it $1,000 and I'll provide 12 months worth of support. There are a range of things we could do there.
And there's been call for like a subscription model as well, where it's like you pay less, but you pay it indefinitely. Other people want to just pay one thing up front and be done with it. And I think the level of support that comes with that could vary.
And yeah, it's worth mentioning as well that we're indeed like on the early stages, so we are considering different options for the purchase if we will be moving forward, because as Dries mentioned, so currently we're just on the consideration phase, not that the decision has been made as of yet. But yeah, also something that we were discussing, that for the templates as well, there will be an opportunity if, for instance, you're enjoying the template but you want more, you should be able to reach out to the company that provides that template and start working from there.
Yeah, maybe I'll talk a little bit more about that idea, because I mean you kind of said it, but we had two ideas. One is just provide a contact form on the template, because somebody starts with a template, but chances are we all build websites, right? No two websites are ever the same. There's always some customization that you need to do, if only adjusting it to your brand. And so it seems very reasonable to be able to get in touch with the builder of the template, the maker of the template, to get more. And it could be customizations, additional features. It could be even performance scale, tuning, those kinds of things. Another idea, are there actually agency business owners in the room? Raise your hand. Yeah, another idea that we had is, let's say some of the feedback that I've gotten is like, we're not gonna be able to sustain our company by selling $50 templates, right? It's not a lot of money in aggregate, likely. But one of the ideas was, what if we, with consent, obviously, gave you the email address of the person that just bought the templates, right? Because in a way, that could be pretty hot leads, if you will. And you could then reach out and say, hey, I saw you bought a template. Can we help you with anything else? And so we'll be able to, either with an optional contact form or even a little bit more, explicit, if you will, with consent, put the maker of the template in touch with somebody that just bought a template, and then hopefully, potentially, that could lead to a much larger project,
Yeah, I could see as well. So my company is pretty small. We're only about 20 and we're mostly back-end. So we have one designer, but we definitely don't have the capacity to create site templates, at least not ones that would be super attractive to buy. But I can imagine a world where there are really small providers that do provide the templates and sell them, and then they might partner with agencies around the world to say, they're getting support requests, and then they're passing those leads on to whoever might be like a good local provider for them, and then doing revenue share. I mean, I completely made that up, but I'm just saying, my company, a Drupal expert company, is probably not going to be selling templates, but I could still see this benefiting us definitely by some kind of partnership model.
And I think it's one of the things that came up yesterday in the board meeting, the Drupal Association board meeting, is that, obviously we've been looking to our existing agency community to support Drupal and the sustainability of the Drupal Association and the infrastructure that we provide for the project, right? We provide a lot of resources for free, and our job as the DA is to make sure that we can continue to provide those resources. But as we are more successful and as we do more things, the cost of providing those things continues to grow for us. So part of what I think on the DA side we're interested in is finding a model to make this sustainable, so that we can continue to connect with not just the agency community we have, but establish relationships with those end users, which to date is just a growth opportunity for us, and be able to connect that back in.
So that said, there's two questions on quality. One is, will the marketplace have restrictions to keep the quality and it maintainable, similar to how the project browser does with a minimum of 2 maintainers? And there's another one that asks, how do we prevent Drupal from becoming a freemium wasteland?
Well, again, I'm going to wear my DA hat, and I think the Starshot team may have different, different thoughts on this. But obviously, we want to make sure that Drupal is supporting and our makers. And so I think at the DA on the agency side, we have the Drupal Certified Partner Program, and I think that's part of one of the first steps we would look at, is to make sure that are you a DCP to be able to put some of these things in. Then there's also the other option of making sure that they're rated, and then another thing we've thought about is what kind of automated controls or approval process. It wouldn't just be fully, anybody who wants to can upload those things.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's got to be some governance of who gets to post what. I don't know what that looks like, but like without a doubt, it won't be just anyone can post anything, because I don't think that would really benefit anything. I'm curious though, what is a freemium wasteland? What does that mean? Yeah, freemium. What does that actually? I don't really understand.
Loss leader.
But why would that be a bad thing? That's the wasteland is the part I'm not understanding.
I think people are concerned that there'll be so many that are out there that are like AI generated or tweaks on things that aren't great.
Are you Scott? Did you ask the question? No, you're not. You're Scott. All right. Can
One sec. We don't have time to repeat things.
Yeah, I know the what was said yesterday was that the modules will always be free, but I think when there is a monetary incentive, then people will find ways to have their, you get this for free, but the rest of it you've got to pay the subscription for. Certain ecosystems out there operate very heavily on that premise, and my concern is that it would infect the marketplace. It's pretty negative experience in my experience. I have a lot of experience in that ecosystem, and so I think
I understand, but I mean, I'm not a licensed expert at all, but I don't actually think it's legal to like make a module that is actually freemium. If you're providing a service that you can charge for separately, obviously that's fine, and that happens all the time. There are lots of modules that integrate with paid services, but it's not actually legal to distribute a module that you only get partially the code for. Or I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe I'm not sure how that would even technically work.
Yeah, but like all the PHP codes would be under the GPL. You can't actually license something that runs as part of Drupal with something else. Anyway, the GPL is pretty clear on what has to be GPL, and I think sometimes these other marketplaces, they don't do it right. I would say they push the boundaries of what is legal, and like we definitely don't want to do that. So I would add, like, we don't want to create like a wasteland of like poor quality templates, or we don't want like things that aren't according to in the spirit of the GPL, to be honest. Like we want to do the right thing, and so that's actually one of the reasons why, as a Drupal association, I'll put my Drupal association hat on for a second. Like we do see commercial site templates as a good thing because of what Tiffany said. Like building the marketplace is one thing. I'm pretty sure we can build a marketplace because we're all website builders, but running the marketplace is like actually the expensive part. And if we launch a marketplace, we're probably gonna have it for, who knows, 10 plus years, right? And so we need to think about the governance, the policies, who does the quality control. There's gonna be disputes, I'm sure. There's gonna be people trying to exploit things, and all the things that come with a marketplace, as you mentioned. And we'll definitely enroll you in helping us, design these things and tap into your experience there. But like the operational part of the marketplace, I think, is gonna take, resources. And we as a Drupal association, candidly, we don't have those resources today. Like we actually don't have the resources to build the marketplace, unless we trade off some pretty big things. And so, yes, we need resources to build it, and then we also need long-term resources to maintain it and to make sure that it's a high-quality marketplace. Like nobody wants a low-quality marketplace, and it's actually going to be one of our key factors in making this decision. Like we don't want to launch something that then becomes the wasteland of site templates, right? You want to make sure it's done well.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Tiffany, if I may. So, and I wanted just to add, so from the point of view of the DA, once again, that we always are taking the status of Drupal as digital public good, first of all, and being proper open source system very carefully and very close to our hearts. But not only that, we obviously, while we will be working on those licensing questions, etc., we always make sure to get the consultancy from really qualified lawyers in order to avoid people bending and exploiting the system.
Just to provide a little bit of context for how we're thinking about this, if we do move forward, again, wearing the DA hat, we're thinking about not just the governing bodies and the frameworks and responsibilities that would go into building it and then supporting it. We are thinking about things like the monetization and the revenue sharing, and that goes beyond just the folks who are running the marketplace, the DA, and the folks who are uploading the site template. One of the big questions came up around the ethics of having free modules being included for something that is monetized. So that is something that's really top of mind for us. Thinking about transparency and community involvement, we're thinking about the marketplace policy itself, what could be sold and what is unique enough, and who can upload those things. Thinking about security and quality control standards, and then obviously, as Dries said, dispute resolution and an appeals process. So there's a lot of different pieces that we're thinking about just from the governance perspective that we need to explore more.
I just wanted to come in on the people contributing to it, though it is a opportunity, and one of the criticisms of Drupal from a user perspective is people don't know what it does. So this is a real opportunity to showcase Drupal and get people closer to those sites that Drupal can make, because it's a visual, it's impactful. So that would be an incentive for people if they want to see a controlled marketplace and a marketplace that does the job to get involved. So yeah, because it can be beneficial. The quicker we can put users that want to use Drupal in contact with the sites that we know they're going to love and have forever, then that's a positive.
Yeah, I also, I completely understand what you meant now, and I think that the thing to stress, most, what you're buying is the visual. It's the theme, and if you want to include functionality in your site template, that's fine, but if you sell a site template with a beautiful design, but a module that has some weird lock on the functionality, that's just so un-Drupal that I think probably someone would come in and make a free version. Do you know what I mean? I just feel like that's a scenario that the Drupal community would just no, not gonna happen. And again, the module itself is not what you're buying. You're buying the theme, the compatibility with the module, and maybe expert setup of that module, but you're not buying the functionality. That's not what that's not what's for sale, if that makes sense, I think.
But there's a related question that's high voted, is modules will always be free, aka open source, but should there be a secondary companion initiative to help support module maintainers by encouraging sponsorship or lead generation?
Why would it have to be separate? Right, I wouldn't assume that it has to be separate. Correct.
And there's a lot of talk about how to sustain modules, encouraging contribution. The fact that we're doing lead generation on case studies is an equal thing, so I think it has to be equal. Modules can remain free, but I think that you have to address both at the same time.
Yeah, but I think that.
Can you summarize that?
So the comment was that, as you are, we're talking about the themes and the other places, but that the modules, we need to think about the sustainability of the modules that are the foundation of any of these site templates that we would be distributing, right? And I think that's been an open question for a long time, and we are aware of that and thinking about this. So when we think about the revenue, particularly if the DA is the center hub of this, thinking about how revenue sharing may spill over to the module maintainers, because we would know every module that's included in every site template, right? So that's something that we need to address from an ethical perspective anyway.
Yeah, but I think one thing that's getting a little bit lost is that what's already happening is that's happening already on a massive scale. It's just invisible because agencies are charging $200 an hour to do it, and you don't know that that transaction's happening. And so I think focusing on the site template, which is definitely going to be the way, way, way low end of the market, is not to say we shouldn't worry about it, but I think we need to worry about module maintenance in the Drupal ecosystem as a whole, not just in the site template instance, because yes, it makes it much more visible, but the real money is in the ones that are already happening, and those people are already not contributing. So I think we need to solve that problem more wholesomely rather than focusing on like as a side effect of this new thing, because it's not a new thing. You know that. You know that better than anyone.
All right. So two people basically turn the question back on us. So let me find it. So there's one question of why not to build this. That's the simple question. And then Joe asks somewhere, I will find it sooner than later. Then can we list the reasons of what we think there could be risks in implementing this? Yeah, what do you see as risks of implementing a marketplace, or some of the questions you think we need to answer before we can definitely say, yes, we should build this?
The risks of building it?
I can think of, I guess probably one of the main risks is how do we actually build that? Where do we get the money from? Not the money, just not only the money, like the people or the time to build that, and just only being able to get halfway and not getting a proper implementation of a marketplace because we don't have enough resources, we don't have enough people supporting that. And that would be like a risk to get something half done that doesn't actually solve the problem, and we've invested a lot of time without actually properly solving it. So if we go there, we really need to go full on the project.
And just like I think to add a little bit to what you just said, to me it's perhaps how we build that in a timely manner. Because as you, Dries, yesterday mentioned that like quite a few systems, they already have this as a feature. So yeah, how do we, not spend on that 3 years, but build that in a timely manner?
Yeah, I share these views also. In my mind, I think we can build this, Like, I'm not worried about that. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy, but I firmly believe we can figure out a way to build it. Like, the bigger question that I have is, like, how do we make sure it's not like an empty marketplace? And how do we make sure that the templates that we have, that they're like just beautiful and powerful, like that they're like so high quality? And I think about, how many designers and UX people and product people are actively contributing to the project right now, and it's not a whole lot sometimes, And if you think about how do we build these site templates with beautiful designs, like how can we attract many more designers to our project? How can we attract many more product people, I call them, but basically people that can implement common use cases, for website owners? Like, I think for me, some of the risk is in that, our ability to bring in more talent that can help us build these site templates and have the highest quality site templates in the market compared to our competitors.
So on the DA side, we identified 5 key risks and potential mitigations before we moved it forward. So the first has already been mentioned, whether we have internal capacity for execution. The mitigation for that is partnering with other resources and looking at our allocation strategies, as well as potentially a phased rollout. We were worried about governance and community pushback, so you're seeing some of the mitigation for that today, which is make sure we have a strong and continuous community engagement process and make sure that the DA retains oversight in that process, even after launch. The third concern was the marketplace monetization might undermine or seem in conflict with our open source principles, which are essential to us as a digital public good and proponents of the open web. We want to make sure that we want to make sure that our governance ensures that modules are always free, that revenue is tied to value that's created and bundled services, as well as just making sure we engage our legal counsel to make sure everything's really super buttoned up. The fourth was increased burden on module maintainers without compensation. So this is top of mind for us. Again, we can explore certain revenue share models and contribution credit incentives, as well as quality assurance mechanisms, because I think there's also, if you had a poorly done implementation of your module, that may increase your issue queue. So we're thinking about all of those things. And then fifth was the quality control challenges with poorly built templates, which I think we've talked about already.
Can I add, while we're on, just on the user experience side, maybe going a bit more meta, but one fear would be we build it and they don't come. So I think building it is one thing, but making sure the messaging around what it's for and who it's for and is it meeting those needs. So really understanding, for example, the Shopify model and what people come to and what they expect, and are we going to deliver the same to be on that kind of mental model as well. And also echoing your points, Dries, about needing extra UX resource in the community to make sure we can really make it impactful and beautiful and something that people arrive on and just totally get it and are sucked in from the beginning.
I have many concerns about implementation, but the big one that sticks out to me is we've spent a lot of time lately trying to put everything into Drupal, like Project Browser. You don't need to use Google or Drupal.org directly to find your modules. And this is maybe adding another layer outside of Drupal again. And that seems like a risk, potentially, that you need to go to Drupal.com or Drupal.org/whatever in order to find this amazing functionality that if you just download Drupal, you won't know about. Because I don't think we're going to try to bundle this entire marketplace into Drupal itself. I think that would be horrible. But that's the risk that's like top of mind for me right now.
Yeah, that was actually one of the questions of whether we want to put it in the installer. So one more. So site templates are recipes. Why don't we own the terminology and we just call them recipes?
No, who asked that?
Because we don't want to use the term recipes. No. That's not why. I'm kidding.
They're not just recipes, to clarify as well. They're recipes plus at least a theme and some other stuff. And the specification of that is not yet final or public, but it's not just a recipe or a bunch of recipes. It is technically not that. So terminology aside, which is still an ongoing conversation, it's not called a recipe because it's something distinct from a recipe.
Right. For more information on that, come to a session at 4:10.
Jim, does it solve the question? Or do you want to talk about I'm not sure where he is. Yeah. Do you want to talk about the recipes concept itself, or?
I just think that we're innovators, and other CMSs have looked at recipes with respect, and to not own that term is,
But yeah. We are innovators with the recipes concept. Why don't we own that term? And to answer that, we are innovators on the concept. Are we sure this is the right term? And Emma, you actually want to. Yeah.
So some of the research showed that with the word recipes, people understand that to be a set of instructions. So when they're installing a recipe, they're thinking they're going to get kind of step by step. So I agree that our concept of recipes is innovative. I question not whether it's the right word, but you have to prioritize your target audience here. So if you want them to engage what they're going to get, you need to speak their language almost, because we can't control how people perceive Drupal. We have to sort of listen to how they're understanding things and then respond to that if we want Drupal to shine for them and to speak to them. So yeah, I don't think we're undermining the innovation quality of recipes. It's just making sure we choose the right words, because that's how people make sense of what we do.
Shall we rename it into meal, perhaps?
Well, I think also the recipe terminology question is not strictly related to the marketplace, but as for the question, like a site template isn't just a recipe, it's more than that. So I think it's important that we name it something that makes it distinct. And I think that the ongoing terminology question is a very, very, I don't know, lively discussion. And there is user testing ongoing, which will inform further decision, but like there isn't a decision on that now, so yeah.
In my mind, maybe to go back to the original question, like, and again, we haven't actually figured out what a site template actually is in terms of how it's implemented, but in my mind, it's closer related to a distribution than it is related to a recipe, you know? And like, I think it can replace distributions in time, so. Adam disagrees, maybe?
So
It's in the name of your session. Come on.
It's twice in his session title. So, what part of to multiple people ask, and it's upvoted very highly, which we touched a bit, but we haven't really gone into, is what part of site templates can be proprietary? Some special modules or some themes or glue code. As of now, they are recipes, so they are open source. And then somebody else says that they are basically PHP code. If the GPL makes all PHP code GPL, then what are we trying to sell in the first place?
Yeah, so the way the GPL, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but my understanding is that when something runs in the same runtime, in you know, computer science sense, like PHP code that's loaded and run within Drupal, which is GPL, then automatically that code also becomes GPL, right? So if it's loaded in memory and run together with GPL code, it is basically GPL code. But say that again?
I think if it requires it to run.
If it requires it to run, yes.
It requires Drupal to run, so it gets.
Correct.
But if it requires a library to interact with something else, that library doesn't require the Drupal module to run. Yeah.
That's right.
The module can be GPL, the library doesn't have to be.
Yes. Yes. Yes, you're right. But like, but therefore, like JPEGs and images, etc., they're not in the runtime at all. They're just directly accessed by the browser, if you will, you know, or to a web server. So.
I mean, I also think that the license question is not one that we're going to solve here. I will be the first to say I don't know anything about it, but rest assured that the DA is on the case.
So yeah, I think that's the thing. There's a couple of different components that we know out of the gate are protectable by copyright. So any demo content would be protectable. Any of the design, the actual design itself is copyrightable. And then any of the assets for that design straight out of the gate. The question is around configuration, and that's what I'll be exploring with legal counsel.
I think on the licensing side, like I think we need to keep it really clean, you know, because you know, a lot of like larger organizations, for example, like if it gets messy licensing wise, like it's like a red flag for many organizations. Like they don't want to have to hire a lawyer just to understand what a site template is and what it means. So I think keep it simple, keep it clean. You know, we want to continue to promote free software and open source software, so we don't want to, complicate any of that, I think.
The whole reason we're doing this is to make a frictionless experience accessible to more people. So I think that's at the heart of the mission.
So you said that these are more like distributions. Some people
That's
ask,
what I
like,
said,
if they are more like distributions, are they intended to be maintained and supported like a distribution?
No.
Aww.
Well, because I mean, The difference is it's based on recipes which are not updatable. So you would be updating the modules that are included in the recipe, but I think one of the main reasons that recipes are being so widely adopted is that they don't have the lock-in that distributions had, and that's what makes them so much easier to use and easier to distribute and easier to share and easier to combine. So, Adam's not up here, but maybe Tim can just speak to basically no, because that's not how recipes work. So.
Right. Well, just to quote you earlier, site templates aren't just recipes. So everything I agree with what you said about recipes, but we don't know what the experience builder based themes are going to be like. We don't know what shape they're going to take, how exactly all that's going to play out. And I think it goes back to one of the first questions, which was about, the ongoing support of these site templates. So I would say absolutely no to any recipe, and probably maybe yes to the rest. You might want better demo content.
Yeah, the theme should be maintainable, but the site template itself, like once you install it,
you're done. Yeah.
Throw it away.
Yep.
It doesn't matter anymore. Then everything that you have then just follows the rules of Drupal. Like there's no new rules here. It's just a new starting point.
Do you really expect people to go for that? Like, I bought this, where's my support?
Ask it.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I paid for this. Where can I ask a question? Do you really expect people to, like, is there going to be an issue queue? Or is there, like, an email? Like,
as we said
how?
earlier, I think there's, the easiest one is slap a contact form on it. The other ones are like, you get, this level of real-time support. We could sell some people could sell a site template for $50. Someone could sell for $5,000 with like their phone number attached. We don't know yet. And that's going to be up to the person. If they want to just throw up one for $5 to see how many people pay them, like, good luck. We'll see how many ratings you get. But like, some people might want that. We don't know.
All right, so connecting back to the XP question, sure.
One comment on that though, like if an agency, as an agency, if you build a site for someone right now and you deliver them a site with a theme, it's not guaranteed to have support either, unless they engage with you for ongoing support. So I don't really see much of a difference.
And they're paying a lot more than $50.
Yeah, so this may be a setup question. So how does the Experience Builder design system fit into the concept of site templates or marketplace? Example, do we need to provide a foundational storybook SDC component library that all templates might use as a starter? Is that an interesting idea that we would like to explore?
Yes, of course. Yeah, so you could ask a little bit more to the medical people that are doing a great job on that, but the whole idea is to have this starting point that people will be able to use for their own projects, their own starting points. It's not just going to be one design, it's going to be a whole design system with different themes. It's going to come up, hopefully it's going to be the foundation of the first recipes. We're going to provide several of them, hopefully, I'm not sure how many by Vienna, but the whole idea behind that, it's that, and we are really lucky that they are agreeing to work together on that, so I have a lot of hopes on that, so yes.
All right, so multiple people are saying that there could be a split model where we control the quality of the sellers in the marketplace by charging a yearly fee that other marketplaces already do. And then that would support the DA to fund the marketplace and do maybe some automated stuff there, and then take a cut of the sales as well. So that's, I think, 2 different people submitted that as something that other marketplaces do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've looked at all the different marketplaces and how much they charge if you submit a module, so that helps with a little bit of the gatekeeping and just to offset some, if not all, of the review process to make sure that it's high quality. And in some cases, it's a one-time fee. In some cases, you have to renew annually. And it's a subscription either on a monthly basis or on an annual basis. And then there's also different options for premium listings. There's a ton of different ways that it can be on both sides. But I think right now, we have a clear understanding of what is happening in other marketplaces. And our goal is to make sure that we understand how to make something that's authentic to our culture and our implementation.
All right, there's multiple questions around how do we trickle down this funding to the makers. So is there a fear that monetization of themes or modules would fracture the general unity that we have with features to modules? How could sponsorship be divided between maintainers? And also, how do we see a way for template revenue to trickle down to developers of underlying code who may not be themers or designers?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this. It's at the end of the day, it's a hard problem. Like, how do you distribute, some kind of revenue share to all of the people that ever contributed to something in the right way, right? So we think it's impossible to do that. But what might be possible is things like set up a fund, an innovation fund, and maybe some of the ref share from the Drupal Association goes into that fund and is then distributed, towards strategic initiatives or some kind of not perfect distribution algorithm, but we distribute it obviously back into the Drupal project based on where the needs are for the project. And by the way, I think this is clear, but that is basically aligned and with the mission of the Drupal Association. I mean, any revenue that the Drupal Association makes, it needs to reinvest back in its mission. And so, we would obviously pay for the operations of the marketplace, but if there was any excess sort of revenue coming from the marketplace, it would go back into Drupal, whether it's in investing in core maintainers or module maintainers or marketing. I mean, basically any of the things that the Drupal Association does, which ultimately should be good for all of us.
Yeah, and I think just again, I would stress that the monetization of Drupal modules and themes is already happening on a massive scale. There's millions and millions of dollars flowing through various economies that go to Drupal agencies who create Drupal websites for clients with all contributed code that they do not work on. That is probably, 95% of the Drupal commerce that goes on right now. So I think focusing on the marketplace as this brand new monetization is a little bit of a trap because it's monetization at a really low end, and it also represents, for the first time, an opportunity for the Drupal Association to get some of that money. So right now the money's flowing, it's huge money, it's going to places, and there's no opportunity to capture any of it. What this provides is an opportunity to start capturing some of that money and also then investing it back. So I do think, like Dries said, it's not really possible to distribute the funds in any remotely equitable way, but the DA having money to do innovation and build better things and provide support, and there are many initiatives that we could envision the DA doing if they had the funds to do it, and a lot of those could go toward supporting module maintainers, even if it wasn't a direct financial transfer.
So that connects to several questions that people asked, is that competing marketplaces are likely to emerge since we build all this technology to have site templates. Now it will be much easier to create competing marketplaces. So what's the differentiator of Drupal.org? Why would people come to Drupal.org instead of other marketplaces? Yeah.
We have a lot of Google juice, I'm going to say. So we do have an advantage, just that we rank really well. So I think that they'll be looking at it from that perspective, but I think there's other options too.
I mean, also, Drupal modules could be on GitHub, but they're not. They're on Drupal.org. We have the momentum, and I think it's going to follow suit. I mean, I think I was reading some of the discussions in these channels over the last day, and there was a really interesting one about multiple marketplaces or bespoke marketplaces. And I used to work in higher ed, and I could absolutely see a university's web services department building their own marketplace. And that's already possible right now with Project Browser, the way we built it. That was one of the design goals of Project Browser, was to be able to curate your own list of projects. And site templates are just another kind of project. So.
Yeah, I think that's a really good problem to have if we're doing something that's so good that people want to copy it. So I don't know. I'm not that worried about that right now.
There's so many people who are jumping forward to success problems. I'm really excited about this.
I was expecting some kind of community drama.
No drama in Slack.
I expected more people to be adverse to it, to be honest. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's totally fine. But I'm actually positively surprised how many people seem to be embracing the idea. So,
yeah.
So
maybe I'm reading the room wrong, but that's what I'm thinking right now.
No, it all seems positive to me. But going on back to the licensing, I think one of the things that just came to mind with the talk of, okay, you start a project and now you have some graphics that are licensed in something that's potentially non-free. and now you want to go change the graphics and the things that are not covered by the GPL anymore. How do we ensure that we're not trapping people installing these into things that could get them in trouble down the road? Is, you know, what sort of licensing guidelines or restrictions do we want to make in here for the people that are trying to do proprietary licenses for their stuff?
I would assume it's something similar to what we do as an agency, right? So I'm going to put my Palantir hat on right now, and so we give people the full rights and copyright to the images once they have them, except they can't distribute them, for example. So I think there are known patterns, and we'd have to certainly vet this globally for all the jurisdictions that we'd be selling in. But that's a solved problem. We just haven't done it here yet. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just want to see, I mean, an open marketplace where we're making sure that we're not allowing kind of the alternatives where, oh, now that you've done this, you have to pay us more if you want to do anything outside our restricted licenses.
And I think that goes back to the freemium wasteland, where if you want to do anything with it, you're trapped and you're going to be nickel and dime. And I think that's not the goal.
So I think we're basically run out of time by 2 minutes already. So are there any last words? Maybe I will start with Matt Glamon's comment. That was great, I think. That Commerce kickstarted an original site template from the Drupal 7 distributions and made me find Drupal. I didn't even know about Drupal, really. So a marketplace bringing more folks in with site templates, especially ones they could spend like $50 maybe to try and get started, will likely get more folks hooked. Any other last words?
Well, I would like to just take the temperature of the room. I know Dries just mentioned it. So if you're not familiar, there's something called the Fist of Five. And you can type it in channel if you want, or you can just hold your hand up. 1 is this is the worst idea ever. Why are we even thinking about it? We should go home in shame. 5 is this is amazing. And I can't believe we haven't done it yet. So I'm assuming some of us are in the mix in between those two extremes. So on the count of 3, please hold up how many fingers you are in support of this. 1 being no. 5 being yes. 3, 2, 1. Oh, I'm seeing a lot of 5s, 4s, some 3s. Oh my gosh, people are 10, the 2 hands held up. This is awesome. Thank you so much for all your feedback. We're going to be continuing to engage the community. There are a lot of questions that we have to work through, and we're going to be prioritizing them. Certainly, as Dries mentioned, our go, no, go, whether we do this, is the first one, and I think we might get there faster than we thought. So thank you all for coming, and I look forward to your continued collaboration in this conversation.
Thank you.